Hey, it's Scott, and I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the changes in my new studio. So if you watch this channel, probably about a month or two back, I posted a video that showed moving into my new studio. But of course, at that time, a lot of it had just been moved in and it wasn't really its final setup yet. And it's probably still not. It's what I like about the space is it's kind of has a lot of potential for being an evolving space and just kind of adapting to what I need. But I've made quite a few changes, so today I just wanted to walk you through those, show you some of the different things that I have set up, and also talk about some of the things that I'm still planning on doing from now on. So let's go ahead and get inside there and see what's up. So as we walk in, of course, the most important update, I got slippers for people who visit. All sarcasm aside, if you haven't seen the space yet, this is the first floor. And this is the second floor. So we're going to walk you through some of the changes. We're going to start from upstairs because that's where I've made some of the more significant changes that you may have seen if you've been watching my channel lately. So one of the first changes is with my camera, and originally I was using a 24mm, Canon 24mm lens here, but I switched over to the Sigma 18-35. I wanted to have that 35mm field of view, just so I could move the camera back a little bit and get a little bit of a narrower field of view at the same time. And I wanted that wider aperture so that way I could still blur out the background a little bit, even though there's not a whole lot of distance from me to the background. So this was the best choice for me, and then I can still go wide if I wanted to show the space in a little bit more of its entirety at the same time. I don't have to switch lenses, and this was a lot cheaper than some of the Canon 35 1.4, and also this records in a crop in 4K, so you know, it's fine. I'm still using the Deity S-Mic 2S for my main boom mic here, and I'm sorry to Deity, I will make a review of this very soon, but as you can see, the background here has changed quite a bit. Again, if you watched that first video, you don't really know what it was originally, but this is what I have working now. So I've set up this Manfrotto, I think it's called the auto pull system, so that way you can put the seamless paper on here and you can just quickly lift it up and drop it down. This is way too expensive. I think Impact makes a much cheaper version that does essentially the same thing, but this was the perfect height for this space here. And then I want to be able to quickly raise and lower the seamless backdrop, because to get over there, where I have some of my just random stuff stored, I need to be able to pass by here. So I need to be able to lift this up really quickly, and this was a good solution. I had these poles, I had this system already, so I just threw it in here. One other thing I wanted to point out was that on the bottom of this seamless paper, I decided to use these magnets, and they're on both sides of the paper, so that way they can hold on to each other. And I used that to weigh it down at the bottom, just because if I used some kind of A-clamp or something that hangs on here like I typically do on other shoots, then it's going to need to hang a little bit below that. And I wanted this to come all the way down to the floor. So just doing something like this that doesn't need any extra clearance below the paper really seemed like the best way to do this for me, and it works fine. These are not super heavy, but you know, with a bunch of them on here, it works out well enough. It holds it down securely enough that when I extend this paper, it holds it down from curling up the bottom or from rolling back up, or you know, releasing some of the tension on the actual roll here, so that way nothing gets messed up. Now originally here I just had only these sound blankets, and I just used it as a black kind of background, and I was more over towards my desk, but I moved over to the center and I used this as a more kind of clean backdrop. I like the way it looked better. It looked more professional. And originally I was going with, you know, the typical little spot of light on the background behind me when I was sitting there, but I thought it was a little bit too typical. So this was a little bit more interesting. This is the Flowlight Blade Light here, and I've done this kind of effect before in a photo shoot, and I really like the way it looked, so I wanted to throw that up here in the background, just to give it a little bit more interest compared to just a simple spot of light on the background. And then I threw my camera here too, because just the plain blue background, I know that I did that on purpose, but the plain blue background was a little bit too simple for what it was without anything there. So I thought this gave it a little bit more interest, a little bit more detail in the shot. Now up here is my hair light or rim light, whatever you want to call it. If you've been watching some of my recent videos, I have a few on this little light here. This is the Sokani X60, and it's there for now because it's compact. It's not necessarily going to stay there forever. I could possibly replace it with something else. The fan noise does bother me a little bit, but it doesn't really cause any problems with the actual audio, so it's really not that much of a big deal. But it's small, and I can dial it down low enough. It's at 1% back here. With a reflector, it's all I need to get a nice little rim light on me in that setup. To mount this on there, I've just used a 9-dot Solutions clamp with a stud on there and just slid it right on. So that's mounted right to that Manfrotto pole that's holding that whole section up right there. For my key light, I'm still using the Aputure 120D Mark II, but I've switched out the Light Dome Mark II with this Rotolux 70-inch deep Octa from Elechrome. I just kind of put it on there during a comparison video, and I liked the way it looked, so I kept it on there. It's a little bit smaller than the Light Dome Mark II, so you know, it takes up less space here as you walk by as well. But I like the way it looked. It has a more full diffusion on the inside compared to the Light Dome Mark II, which had a little bit of space around it, so I felt like this gave just a little bit of a softer light. Really looking at it carefully, I don't think it actually makes that much of a difference, but yeah, I liked it. It was small, it's lightweight, so I kept it on there for now. Apparently this cable that runs from the light to the control box is already the maximum possible length, so I just kind of put a little hook up there on one of those poles so I could keep it from dangling as you walk by here, and I just mounted the control box to the wall right there, so I can reach it as I walk up these stairs here and just turn on the light for this space. So this here is kind of a downstairs type thing, but it is rigged up upstairs. I just put this onto one of these poles with a 9-dot solution clamp, and it's the Godox 8200 flash. I was doing a photo shoot downstairs, and this worked out as a really nice position for a, again, rim light or hair light type light. So I mounted it up there, and it worked out good. It's not in the way, so I just kept it up there. I might, you know, be able to mount something else if I'm doing video down there. I could put another light on that same clamp, but this worked out pretty good. I might move it or adjust it a little bit, but generally speaking, I like having that little light up there. And down here, I organized all of my clamps, and most of it is 9-dot solutions, but I have some, you know, simple A clamps and stuff here too, but this is all my different clamps and everything. I organized all of this, I had them all in just one big bucket before, and it was really hard to find stuff, so this way I have it split up a bit more, you know, from some of the gags. These are like little quick mount things, the magnetic quick mount system, GoPro stuff, like I said, A clamps, some little extras, odds and ends, some little arms or whatever you want to call them. So now over here under the ceiling for the second floor, I put one of those wall mount baby pins from Impact, and right now I just have some Quasar tubes mounted on there, but I could mount anything on this. I put it at a nice height where I do have enough clearance above it. If I wanted to put something larger, like, you know, a light like this for example, it can still mount right onto that baby pin, and it still has enough clearance above, so that way I could get, like, you know, in this position here, if somebody's here and I want to take their portrait for example, or if I wanted to do a video right here, I could mount that and then angle it down that way, so that way it's a nice overhead light or a little bit of a front light or a beauty light if I'm doing portraits, something like that. Again, for now I just have these Quasar tubes mounted up here using a little what do you call it, grip head from a C-stand, and yeah, I have a lot of possibilities with this, and I'm definitely going to be switching things out as I go through different types of shoots and different types of needs. And again, I just ran the cable over here, plugged it into the wall. These Quasar tubes do have this also control switch right here where I could turn them on and off, so let me go ahead and turn them on real quick here. And you can see they're quite bright, so that's going to be a nice overhead. It's too bright for the camera to even focus. It's going to be quite bright for this space down here. If I want to do any B-roll down here, I'll set up like a table or something right around here, and that's going to be cool. And these are also bicolor, so I could switch that up if I needed to. Now this here is the other part that I'm pretty excited about. When I did a photo shoot here, I was using a couple of stands. I think it was like these C stands right here, and I had a backdrop set up right around here, and it was, you know, of course out a little bit from that back wall because just the stands need space, and it was just really quite cluttered, and it was hard to pass through here after I had set it up, and it was kind of a hassle to take it back down again. So I wanted something a little bit more permanent that can also not be in the way. So again, what I did is I took a couple of those Impact wall baby pin, whatever they're called, type mounts, and I put them right up here. These grip heads go right on there, and it has a little indentation on the baby pin, so that way these can lock onto there securely. Even if they come a little loose, they're not going to fall off, so it's safe enough. And I put one here, and I put one over there, and now I can have, right now I just have this hand painted backdrop on there, but I could put, you know, any kind of seamless paper or whatever on there, roll it up out of the way so that way I can go through this door and then drop it down when I need to. And that's like a really, really exciting thing for me, because it's as far back to this wall as possible, so that way, you know, when I'm back here shooting, I do have that clearance between my subject and, you know, myself, so that way it makes the most of this space here, but it also doesn't get in the way of anything else. It's very easy to just roll up and then go and leave the space and have it looking all tidy and clean. Now the reason I didn't go for something like the Manfrotto auto pole system that I have upstairs over here is because with that system you have to have those mounts in the end of the tubes that they go right in there and lock into the actual hooks on that system, which means that the ends of this need to be kind of at a permanent position, and that's not what I wanted here, because this hand painted backdrop, for example, might be a different width than a seamless paper that I wanted to mount on here. I have something that's a lot narrower, or I have this full length. This is, I think, 250 centimeters. I have some that are 260. I have some that are 170. And with this, it's just poles that go across here. So I could put any size, basically, of backdrop on here, whether it's shorter or whether it's longer, and I don't have to worry about that. Alright, so there's one more thing that I've been wanting to do in here, and if you watched my first video about this studio, you'll have seen me talk about putting up an overhead camera right here between these rafters, and that would require some of those wall mount baby pins from Impact that I loved so much, and I bought a bunch of them, but I ended up using them in other spots around the studio, so I don't have any more left. But I did have an idea that might work a little bit better than that, that's a little bit less permanent, using some 9-Dot Solutions parts only. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and set that up today. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, I'm not gonna use this part of the video. Okay, so the problem was I wanted to run rods across the top and the bottom of this thing here, across here and across here, but the height difference between where I can mount these clamps on these poles doesn't quite match up, so it's not gonna go straight across. So instead of doing that, I'm actually gonna do it with a simpler setup, and instead of these little pins going into the corners and then mounting gags on them, and then needing all those gags and pins and everything, I'm just going to use a couple rods, 3 rods actually, not a couple, and screw those straight into each of these corners and have them going off at angles, and hopefully I can find a place to mount these clamps that will match up with those angles as the rods come off. Boom, there we go. We got a plate up, a head up on this plate. Alright, so what I'm mounting on here right now is the ZCam E2 F6. This is a full frame 6K camera. Just checking that the safety pin on this head works good enough just to make sure I can really feel a little bit safer about it. Tightening that down. This also has a 140 watt hour V-mount battery mounted on here, an 85mm lens. I'm not going to bother putting a monitor or anything on here. What I am going to do in this setup is put a wireless transmitter here so that way I can view it on a larger monitor downstairs. This is fairly solid, and I'd use it like this because, again, you're not going to be touching it really. The point is to have a straight overhead camera, and that's what I got. Alright, so those are some of my favorite products overall, and of course favorite setups and favorite things to use in the studio here that have been the most helpful in actual day-to-day use. So hopefully you could enjoy that. You could get maybe some inspiration or ideas for things that you could set up or use in your own space, or different ways to use things that you already have. Huge shout out to, you know, those Impact baby plates that I have all over the place, the 9-Dot Solutions grip that I have all over the place, aperture lights, DD microphones, Hollyland wireless, OC monitors, and all of that stuff that I use, of course, every day in the studio, but also on page shoots that I just couldn't go without. Those things are incredibly useful, and if you want to see any of those products or check out the prices for yourself, please do check the video description. I'll have links for as much as I can find down there, and hopefully you can pick some stuff up and find ways to use it on your day-to-day shooting as well. But if you have any questions or comments, as always, leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you like this video or found it helpful, please do consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing if you haven't already to see more in the future, and as always, thank you for watching.